If someone keeps saying you're too much, maybe they're just not enough. When they say you've changed, thank them, because evolution is the point. And when someone calls you lucky, smile, because they weren't there when you were crying alone in silence. Jealous people don't always attack you. They disguise it as compliments, jokes, or concern. But their words, oh honey, they reek of insecurity. Let's talk about the words jealous people always use and what they really mean underneath. Because once you recognize the language of envy, you'll stop internalizing their limits. You'll stop shrinking just to make them comfortable. These two words, just two, can feel heavier than an entire book of insults. Not because they're loud, but because they're soaked in judgment. And the irony, you're supposed to feel bad for evolving. You're supposed to feel guilty for growing, glowing, and going beyond the limits that once defined you. Think about this. When a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, no one says, you've changed. They admire the wings, but when you grow out of people's comfort zones, they don't clap. They criticize. Because your transformation makes them question their stagnation. Let's say you were once the person who said yes to everything, to last-minute plans, to emotional labor, to being there even when no one showed up for you. You were the always available friend, the one who understands. Then one day, you started saying no. You started choosing peace over pleasing. And suddenly they say, you've changed. But here's the truth. You were not born to stay the same, just to keep others comfortable. When someone says you've changed, what they often mean is, you're no longer easy to manipulate. You no longer respond to chaos. You no longer explain your worth. You no longer tolerate disrespect masked as humor. That's not changing. That's evolving. That's leveling up. That's becoming unrecognizable to the people who only loved you when you were broken. Picture this. You used to party every weekend. You used to surround yourself with noise, distraction, drama, anything that helped you escape your pain. But then, something in you shifted. You started waking up early, reading books, protecting your energy. You found peace in silence, power in solitude. And those same people who used to be your ride or die, they now say, you're different. Yes, you are. Because you realize that growth doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in quiet. In decisions made alone at midnight when no one is watching. And not everyone will understand that. Sometimes even family says it. You've changed. Maybe you no longer accept emotional guilt tripping. Maybe you don't let them decide who you should marry, what job you should take, or how you should live. The moment you stop living by their script, you become the villain in their story. But let me ask you this. Is it better to be the villain in their version of your life or the hero in your own? Think of your workplace. You used to blend in, laugh at every joke, agree with every decision. But now, you speak up. You set boundaries. You bring results without sacrificing your mental health. And your co-workers murmur, she's not the same anymore. Good. Because blending in never created impact. Growth requires standing out. You see, people who truly love you will celebrate your change. They'll evolve with you or cheer you on from wherever they are. But jealous people, insecure people, they'll shame you with nostalgia. They'll say, remember when you were more fun? Remember when we used to be close? Yes, you remember? And that version of you was tired, drained, lost, and playing small. You don't owe anyone a return trip to your past. You've changed because you were meant to. You've changed because staying the same was killing your soul. You've changed because evolution is the only evidence that you're truly alive. So when they say it, let them. When they whisper it, smile. Because every time someone says you've changed, they're unknowingly confirming what you worked so hard for. That you're not who you were, you're becoming who you were always meant to be. You think you're better than everyone. It's not a question, it's an accusation. And it usually comes from people who are secretly threatened by the way you've started owning your worth. The truth is, they don't actually believe you think you're better. They're just uncomfortable because you stopped thinking you're less. When you were quiet, humble to a fault, constantly doubting yourself, constantly asking for permission to exist, they loved that version of you. You were easy to predict, easy to manage, easy to overlook. But the moment you started walking into rooms with your head high, the moment you stopped apologizing for your brilliance, suddenly you're too confident, too loud, too full of yourself. Let's take a simple, everyday example. You used to work in the background while others took the credit. You were okay with it, right? You told yourself it's not about recognition, but deep inside, it hurt. Then one day, you started speaking up in meetings, asking for what you deserve, saying no to being used like a silent machine. Now people whisper, she thinks she's better than us. No, you don't think you're better. You just finally started treating yourself the way you should have been treated all along. Or maybe you're the one in your family who broke the cycle. Everyone stayed stuck, repeating patterns, blaming the world, settling for less. But you dared to dream. You got your worth. You were praised not for your value but for your compliance. But now you've set your price. You don't chase clients, they chase you. And here comes the bitterness. She's changed. She acts like she's too good for us. No, you just know your worth. And the moment you realize your value, those who benefited from your discount mindset will call it ego. This world has conditioned women to believe that humility means silence, that being liked is more important than being respected. But here's the raw truth. They don't want you to think you're better because they prefer when you think you're not enough. Here's what nobody tells you. Confidence scares people who rely on your insecurity to feel secure. They feel safe when you doubt yourself because it means they don't have to compete with your light. But when you step into your power, they feel exposed. So they say, you think you're better than everyone, and deep down, what they're really saying is, you're no longer willing to play small for my comfort. You're no longer accessible to my manipulation. You're not bending, and that threatens me. You don't think you're better, you just know you deserve better. You don't think you're above anyone, you just stopped placing yourself beneath everyone. Now, you did. Now, you're distinct. You're precious. You're precious. You're precious. You're precious. You're precious. And you know what saves you from that? And if your confidence looks like arrogance to the insecure, so be it. Let it. They say it with a smile, but it's not a compliment. It's a subtle dagger wrapped in casual words. Because calling it luck is easier than admitting you earned it. It's easier to believe your success was an accident than to acknowledge the silent battles, the private sacrifices, and the relentless discipline it took for you to rise. Let's be real. Luck doesn't wake up at 5 a.m. when no one's watching. Luck doesn't study through the night while your friends are out partying. Luck doesn't invest in self-development while others scroll through life on autopilot. That wasn't luck. That was you choosing growth over comfort again and again. Think about your career. You were told it's all about who you know, right? But you didn't know anyone. You were the underdog, the outsider. You weren't handed opportunities. You created them. You applied for jobs with no connections, got rejected dozens of times, and still showed up. You networked, you trained, you pushed yourself to the edge. And now that you've made it, what do they say? She got lucky. As if luck wrote your resume. As if luck showed up every day when they didn't. Or maybe it's your business. They said it wouldn't work. They laughed at your ideas. They whispered, it's just a phase. And then, when your side hustle turned into a 6-figure reality, when your product started selling out, they changed their tune. She got lucky. They ignore the nights you cried behind closed doors, the anxiety attacks, the loans, the sleepless grind. They see the glow, but ignore the grind. In relationships too, they say it. She's lucky she found someone like him. No, you healed to attract that kind of love. You didn't just get lucky. You became emotionally available, learned how to love yourself, set boundaries, and stopped tolerating half-loves and emotional scraps. That wasn't luck. That was transformation. Let's not forget health and fitness. People see your body change, your energy rise, your skin glow. Must be nice. She's lucky. She has time to work out. They don't see you waking up before sunrise. They don't see you skipping the junk, pushing through the burn, saying no to instant pleasure for long-term gain. That's not luck. That's discipline on fire. Luck is a story people tell themselves to justify their own inaction. It's a pillow for the lazy. Because if you got lucky, they don't have to feel bad for not trying. If your life happened by chance, they don't have to change theirs by choice. People never see the years you spent underground. They only clap when the flowers bloom, not realizing how much dirt you had to push through. When you were losing sleep, they were sleeping peacefully. When you were investing in your mind, they were wasting time. But now that you're shining, they act like you tripped and fell into greatness. Let them talk. They didn't see the version of you that failed over and over and still kept going. They didn't see the tears you cried in silence because you didn't want to look weak. They didn't see how many times you had to rebuild yourself from ashes when no one showed up for you. So now when they say you got lucky, smile. Because deep down they know it wasn't luck. It was fire. It was faith. It was fight. It was the unshakable belief that no matter how many times life knocked you down, you were going to rise. And not just rise, but rise like a storm. Must be nice. They say it with a smirk, like a casual comment, but you can hear the weight behind it. The resentment, the envy, the refusal to accept that you worked for it, that you sacrificed, suffered, and stayed consistent when it wasn't convenient. Must be nice is the anthem of people who want the result without respecting the journey. They see you driving a new car and they roll their eyes. Must be nice. But where were they when you were driving a beat-up vehicle, scared it wouldn't make it to your destination? Where were they when you were skipping outings, wearing the same shoes for years, saying no to pleasure just so you could say yes to your future. They weren't there when you were budgeting every cent, declining trips, eating noodles while saving every dime. But now you've upgraded your life, and suddenly it's just luck? No, it's alignment, it's effort, it's endurance, it's vision. Think about your emotional growth. You used to get triggered by everything. You used to beg people to stay. You used to be broken by rejection. But then you did the work. You read the books. You sat in silence. You cried. You journaled. You forgave those who never apologized. You rebuilt your spirit, brick by brick. And now, when you're calm in chaos, when you walk away without needing closure, when you radiate peace, they say, must be nice to not care anymore. But they don't know that healing was not a vacation. It was a war. And you fought it alone. What your worth. You were praised not for your value but for your compliance. But now you've set your price. You don't chase clients, they chase you. And here comes the bitterness. She's changed. She acts like she's too good for us. No, you just know your worth. And the moment you realize your value, those who benefited from your discount mindset will call it ego. This world has conditioned women to believe that humility means silence, that being liked is more important than being respected. But here's the raw truth. They don't want you to think you're better because they prefer when you think you're not enough. Here's what nobody tells you. Confidence scares people who rely on your insecurity to feel secure. They feel safe when you doubt yourself because it means they don't have to compete with your light. But when you step into your power, they feel exposed. Even in love, when they see someone treat you with respect, affection, patience, they say, must be nice to find a good one. But they forget, you turned down situationships. You cried yourself to sleep instead of settling. You healed your attachment style. You waited. You believed. You prepared. That kind of love doesn't fall from the sky. You attract what you become. Must be nice is what people say when they don't want to face the mirror. It's easier to believe you got lucky than to admit you got intentional. They want your light, but not your discipline. Your results, but not your process. Your strength, but not your scars. They weren't there when you had to choose your dreams over comfort. They weren't there when you stayed committed when nothing made sense. They didn't see the nights you couldn't sleep because anxiety had you by the throat. But now, you smile without faking it. You walk in rooms without shrinking. You celebrate without guilt. And they can't take it. So they say, must be nice. Let them. Because behind those three little words is a truth they're afraid to say out loud. I wish I had the courage to do what you did. I wish I had your discipline, your resilience, your self-respect. I wish I didn't give up when life got hard. What they call nice was never given to you. It was earned in silence, in sweat. She's just doing it for attention. They say it like a curse. Like a woman stepping into her power, owning her presence, expressing her truth, must always be seeking validation. Because society is more comfortable with a woman who hides, who whispers, who doubts herself, than one who dares to be seen, heard, and felt. You wear what makes you feel fierce. And they say, she just wants attention. But they don't know you used to hate the mirror. You used to cover yourself in baggy clothes. Not because it was your style, but because you didn't feel worthy of being seen. Now you wear color, walk with grace, and love your reflection. And that's too loud for their insecurities. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's healing. It's reclaiming the parts of yourself you were taught to dim. And if that draws attention, so be it. You're not dressing for attention. You're dressing for liberation. You post your wins, your growth, your voice online, and they roll their eyes. She's just doing it for attention. But where were they when you were crying in the bathroom, doubting every step, wondering if you'd ever make it out of that mental mess? Where were they when you were in survival mode, working 3 jobs, holding back tears while holding up your family? Now that you speak with power, now that your story inspires others, they reduce it to a performance. But truth isn't performance. It's courage with a pulse. You start a business, launch a brand, go on stage or speak up in meetings, and again the whispers come. She just loves the spotlight. They never say this about men who do the same. But when you take space, it becomes a threat. Because a woman who owns her ambition without apology rattles cages. And the people who secretly gave up on their own dreams will always mock the ones brave enough to chase theirs. You're not doing it for attention. You're doing it for impact, for purpose, for the younger version of yourself who thought she'd never amount to anything. Maybe you changed your lifestyle, started working out, eating clean, taking care of your mental health, and suddenly people start saying, you're just showing off. But they don't understand, this glow up isn't for the gram. It's for your soul. It's for the days you hated your body. It's for the moments your anxiety kept you in bed. Every workout, every step, every boundary you set is not about attention. It's about evolution. Even your silence gets labeled. You pull back from drama, stop entertaining people who drain you, and suddenly they say, oh, she's just trying to be mysterious for attention. No, you're choosing peace. You've learned that not everything needs your reaction, that preserving your energy is more powerful than proving your point. You're not creating mystery, you're maintaining mastery. Here's the truth. People will always try to make you feel guilty for being visible, especially if you're a woman who no longer shrinks, a woman who walks in the room like she belongs there, a woman who posts her truth without fear, a woman who loves herself out loud. Because attention is not the enemy, desperation is. And you're not desperate, you're desperate, kid. You're tall. You're tall. They said you've changed. And they were right. You've changed because you finally woke up from the illusions they wrapped around you. You stopped apologizing for evolving. You stopped shrinking for comfort zones you've outgrown. The caterpillar was never meant to crawl forever. Butterflies don't beg the ground for permission to fly. They said you think you're better than everyone. No. You just stopped pretending you were less. You stopped downplaying your power to make fragile egos feel tall. You stopped lowering your standards to be more relatable. You realize playing small doesn't serve the world, it just feeds the insecure. And now you walk like a woman who remembers who she is. They said you got lucky, as if your sacrifice was invisible, as if your sleepless nights were a footnote. They didn't see you rehearse in the mirror. They didn't see you fail in silence, rise in secret, and keep going without applause. You didn't get lucky, you got ready. You didn't stumble into success, you bled for it. And now that you're glowing, they call it luck because they can't stomach the fact that you earned it. They said must be nice. Yes, it is. But what they really mean is Why her and not me? What they don't realize is that nice was never handed to you. You fought for it. You cried for it. You crawled through seasons of hell to finally breathe air that doesn't choke you. It must be nice to be free. But it's even better to know you freed yourself. They said, she's just doing it for attention. But what they didn't understand is that you're not performing. You're testifying. You're not chasing claps. You're breaking generational curses. You're showing the girls watching you that it's okay to be seen. It's okay to be strong, loud, feminine, powerful, and real, all at once. And if that gets attention, good. Because we need more women showing others how to rise without permission. They said, let's see how long this lasts. And now, here you are, still standing, still shining, still evolving, still climbing. They were hoping for your chapter to end, but didn't know you were just getting started. You are not a spark that fades. You're a fire that fuels generations. Let them talk, let them gossip, let them mock. While they waste breath on your name, you'll be building an empire on your vision. While they laugh at your first steps, you'll be dancing at your finish line. Because you don't need validation, you need discipline. You don't need noise, you need clarity. You don't need their permission, you need your truth. The same mouths that doubted you will one day quote you. The same ones who laughed will line up to ask how you did it. Because history is not written by the comfortable, it's written by the relentless. Remember this, your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Stars don't compete with darkness, they just shine. Don't dim your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not anger, it's elevation. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they fight you, and then you win. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to inspire the ones brave enough to transform. You are not noise. You are the voice. Not the echo, not the whisper, not the apology. You are the roar behind the silence. So walk with your head high, speak with your heart full, love with fire, create without fear. And never forget, the same people who said, let's see how long this lasts, will one day say, I always knew you'd make it. But by then, you'll be too far ahead to hear them.